2008, a bronze plaque vanished from a state park in Alabama. It had stood there since 1953, placed by the Daughters of the American Revolution. It read, "In memory of a Welsh prince who landed on these shores in 1170, 3 centuries before Columbus." Officials say it was removed for unrelated reasons. But this wasn't the only piece of evidence to disappear. In 1799, a Tennessee governor documented 6 human skeletons pulled from the ground, sealed in brass armor, bearing the coat of arms of Wales. That report still exists. The skeletons do not. Today, we're going to find out what happened to a 300-year-old discovery that should have rewritten American history, and why every trace of it keeps disappearing. To understand what was buried in Alabama, you need to go back to Wales, 600 years before any of it. In 1169, the King of Gwynedd died, leaving behind a tangle of sons fighting for the throne. One of them, Madoc, wanted no part of it.
He gathered men loyal to him and sailed west, not to conquer, but to disappear. He came back once with stories of a rich, distant land. Then he left again, and this time he never returned. 600 years later, in 1782, the governor of Tennessee sat down with a Cherokee chief named Oconostota. The chief told him about ancient stone forts running along the Alabama River, older than any structure his people had built. He said they belonged to a people his ancestors called Welsh, a white people driven out generations earlier. That was just a story passed down by firelight. Then came the proof. In 1799, that same governor wrote a report that should have changed American history. Workers digging near the river uncovered 6 human skeletons, not buried like the dead of any known tribe, sealed head to foot in brass armor, and stamped into that armor a coat of arms, the coat of arms of Wales. 6 bodies, 6 suits of foreign armor. 300 years before any European is supposed to have set foot this far inland. If this was a hoax, nobody ever explained why a sitting state governor would invent it and risk his own credibility to do so. If Madoc's people survived, where did they go? Centuries later, explorers found a tribe unlike any other along the Missouri River, the Mandan. They lived in permanent towns, laid out in streets, not scattered camps. They fished from round boats called coracles, a design found nowhere else in North America, but common in Wales for 1,000 years. Their language echoed Welsh words, and unlike every neighbouring tribe, Mandan hair turned white with age. One detail could be coincidence. All 4 in the same isolated village is harder to explain away. One man spent 8 years trying to prove it. George Catlin, a 19th century painter, lived among dozens of native tribes, including the Mandan. He didn't just see resemblance. He became convinced he'd found the living descendants of Madoc's lost expedition. He painted them obsessively, certain he was documenting the end of a 600-year-old secret. Then, in 1837, smallpox swept through the Mandan villages. Within a year, the tribe was almost gone. And whatever proof Catlin believed he'd found went with them. It wasn't just painters and governors. Thomas Jefferson himself had heard the legend and believed enough in it to act. When he sent Lewis and Clark west in 1804, part of their mission was to look for any trace of a lost Welsh-speaking tribe. They never found one, but the fact that a sitting president gave the order tells you this wasn't dismissed as nonsense in its own time. So if the evidence was always this thin, a legend easily dismissed, why did anyone bother to erase it twice? In 1953, a plaque went up in Fort Morgan, Alabama, naming Madoc directly. It stood for 55 years. In 2008, it was quietly removed. The official reason? Unrelated park renovations. A similar plaque, marking one of Madoc's supposed stone forts in Georgia, was removed in 2015. Its replacement doesn't mention his name at all. 2 plaques, 2 states, 2 unconnected, official paperwork reasons that happened to erase the exact same name. Maybe it really is just folklore. Folklore is supposed to fade on its own, get forgotten, not formally removed. The original linguistic notes on the Mandan language, the field reports Catlin made before the smallpox outbreak, those documents should still exist somewhere, in an archive nobody's reopened in over a century. That's where we go next. If you want to be there when we open it, subscribe. We unlock one of these files every week.